I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me through TikTok. I was 26, living in a tiny apartment above a Thai restaurant in Boston that smelled permanently of lemongrass and regret. I worked part-time at a coffee shop where people ordered things like half decaf oat flat white, extra foam, no eye contact. I was also going to night school for psychology because apparently I thought the best way to fix my life was by learning how other people broke theirs. At the center of this organized mess was Catherine, my girlfriend. She was the kind of woman who made you feel like you were constantly being watched by a more successful version of yourself. Brilliant, beautiful, and just mysterious enough that I was always slightly confused, which I mistook for attraction. We'd been together a year and a half. We had matching coffee mugs, shared a Spotify playlist, and once talked about adopting a dog that we never actually got. Relationship level. Comfortably committed, but not yet terrifying. And then came Tuesday. I was sitting on my couch, in gym shorts I hadn't used for anything gym-related in at least 4 months, mindlessly scrolling TikTok. It was one of those long, lazy evenings where you're too tired to do anything productive but too awake to go to bed. That dangerous zone where the only thing stronger than your apathy is the algorithm. That's when it happened. The video was shaky, clearly shot on a phone mid-laughter. A guy's voice, slightly out of breath, saying something like, "Bro, she actually said yes," followed by loud laughter. At first, I wasn't paying attention, but something in the background, a wave tattoo on someone's wrist, made my brain glitch. My thumb hovered over the screen. I replayed the clip. The tattoo was small, barely visible. A simple wave with a dot above it. I knew that design. I knew it because I had drawn it. Literally, on a napkin, over dinner. For Catherine, my stomach didn't drop. That's too dramatic. It shifted, like a bad burrito, but emotional. I leaned closer to the screen. The guy in the video was Jake, my best friend since college. The girl? Only her arm was in frame, but it had Catherine's tattoo, and Catherine's silver ring, the one with the stupid little engraving inside that said "one day," which was supposed to be our inside joke about marriage. For a solid 15 seconds, I sat there like someone just unplugged my brain. My cat, Chairman Meow, jumped on my lap, and even he looked concerned. I played the video again. Still there. Still the same hand. Still Jake's dumb laugh. Now here's the thing. I'm not a jealous guy. I'm a let's talk about it guy. A let's process this maturely guy. But what exactly do you say when TikTok tells you your girlfriend is probably cheating on you with your best friend? I didn't call her. I didn't text him. I just sat there, holding my phone like it was a live grenade, thinking nope. I'm probably just overthinking. Maybe it's an old video. Maybe it's not even her. But my gut, it already knew. Guts are like dogs. They know when someone's full of it. So what did I do next? I made a sandwich, a peanut butter and jelly one, because apparently my brain decided that a betrayal sandwich needed to be paired with childhood comfort food. Then I poured a glass of almond milk, which I don't even like. I just felt like I needed to balance the chaos with something hipster. I ate the whole thing staring at the wall. And then I laughed. Not a normal laugh. A laugh that sounded like it escaped from a guy who just realized he'd been an extra in his own relationship. That's when it hit me. I wasn't even angry yet. Just confused. There's a weird kind of peace that comes when everything starts to fall apart. I looked around my apartment, at the half-dead plants she bought, the book she never finished, the hoodie she kept stealing. All these tiny pieces of a life that suddenly didn't feel like mine. But I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even finish the TikTok. I just stood up, walked to the bathroom, and brushed my teeth. Because if I was about to unravel emotionally, I figured I should at least have minty fresh breath for it. I thought leaving her hoodie on the doorstep would feel cinematic. Like one of those breakup scenes where the music swells, the hero walks away in slow motion, and birds fly dramatically across the sky. Instead, I stepped in someone's spilled iced latte on her porch and spent the whole walk home smelling like caramel syrup and broken trust. Still, it was progress. The next day, I went to work at the coffee shop. There's something therapeutic about being forced to care about other people's complicated caffeine needs while your own emotional infrastructure is collapsing. It distracts the brain. Like, sure, your girlfriend may be cheating on you, but right now, Kyle needs a Vinny almond milk matcha with exactly 3 ice cubes or he'll implode. I walked in, nodded to my manager Greg. A man who wore beanies in 80-degree weather and had 3 tattoos in Latin that I'm 99% sure he didn't actually understand, and tied on my apron like I was going to battle. I spent the first 2 hours foaming milk, dodging passive-aggressive customers, and pretending not to think about Catherine or Jake. But it was like trying not to notice a bad haircut. The more you try to ignore it, the louder it screams in your brain. Around hour 3, I caught myself pouring steamed milk into a cold brew and realized I needed air. I told Greg I was taking a 10 and stepped outside, slumping onto the metal bench in front of the shop. That's when the chaos hit. Not a dramatic breakdown. No, just all of it. The whole emotional traffic jam. Confusion rear-ended sadness, which swerved into anger, which spun out into numbness, which circled back to confusion. I sat there holding a paper cup, staring at nothing, feeling like a knocked-over trash can of emotions. I didn't cry. I didn't even frown. I just breathed, and that's when something strange happened. I started laughing. Not a full-blown laugh, more like a dry, breathy chuckle. The kind you let out when your brain short-circuits and goes, "Is this really my life?" I mean, what a weird universe. I learned about my girlfriend cheating on me through TikTok. Not even a dramatic confrontation or anonymous message. Nope, just a glitchy, vertical video from the guy who used to share my Netflix password. But here's the twist. Right there, mid-laugh, mid-chaos, mid-whatever that was, I felt clarity. Not the good kind. Not the I'm healed now kind. Just the honest kind. The kind that sits beside you and says, yes, it's a mess. But look at you, you're breathing. You're alive. You're drinking lukewarm coffee and not texting anyone stupid. That's something. I finished my break. Walked back inside. Made 3 more cappuccinos and accidentally used salt instead of sugar in one guy's order, which I later apologized for with a free muffin and a shrug that said, hey man, it's been a weird week. That night, I didn't open Instagram. I didn't stalk her profile. I didn't check if Jake had posted anything new. Instead, I cleaned my apartment. Not like a casual tidy up, I deep cleaned. I vacuumed places I didn't even know had floors. I rearranged my furniture. I threw out a pile of stuff that had her energy on it. Lip balm, tea bags, a single sock I could never return with dignity. All gone. Then I lit a candle, sat on the couch, and just sat. No phone, no TV, just me. For the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt honest. That night, I fell asleep before midnight. Didn't dream about her. Didn't dream about anything. Actually, just rested. And woke up to the wild realization that maybe this chaos wasn't the end of me. Maybe it was the start of something else. Something quieter. Something real. Breakups are weird when they don't come with a scene. No yelling. No crying. No, you never loved me. Echoing down a hallway. Just distance. The quiet kind. Like watching your phone slowly lose signal until you're not even sure if you're connected anymore. After the hoodie drop, I didn't hear from her. No follow-up text. No, hey, was that from you? Just silence. Which, honestly, said more than any confrontation could have. We were still technically together. If someone had asked, hey, how's Catherine? I might have answered, good, I think, because I wasn't even sure if we'd officially broken up. But emotionally, I'd already started packing. It's strange. You expect heartbreak to explode. Mine evaporated. I started making these small choices that felt innocent but weren't. I muted her on Instagram. Stopped checking her Spotify activity, which had way too much soft boy indie for someone who once claimed to love Metallica. I stopped adding her to my grocery list. Little cuts that eventually stopped the bleeding. One Friday, she texted me a meme. Something about cats doing yoga. I heart-reacted. That was it. No follow-up. No, how are you? And I think we both knew that tiny interaction was us waving from opposite ends of a sinking ship. I didn't unlove her overnight. I just started loving myself a little more. I went to class, took notes, said no to a group hangout where I knew she might show up. That night, instead of spiraling, I organized my sock drawer. Not out of grief, out of peace. And then came the moment that sealed it. I walked past a bakery we used to visit. They had her favorite croissants in the window. Almond flaky, overpriced. I almost walked in, almost texted her, but instead, I kept walking. And that's when I knew this was the breakup. Not the hoodie, not the silence, not the lack of closure. It was that exact second I chose my own momentum over nostalgia. There were no fireworks. No dramatic, just a gentle unraveling. But here's the thing. Not every relationship ends in a bang. Some end in a whisper, a slow, quiet pulling away until you realize you've already let go. And weirdly, that's the kind that teaches you the most. Because I didn't break up with her. I broke up with the idea of her. And that made all the difference. The first week post-unraveling, I became someone I didn't fully recognize, in a good way. Like a guy in a makeover montage, minus the upbeat 2000s pop song and dramatic haircut. My mornings got weirdly organized. I started waking up at 7 a.m. voluntarily and going for runs. Not because I suddenly loved cardio, but because I needed to move. My emotions had too much momentum to sit still, and my brain was like, listen, man, if we don't physically run away from these thoughts, they're going to eat us alive. So I ran. Terribly. Gasping, red-faced, almost got hit by a cyclist on day 3. But still I ran. Through parks, side streets, past couples walking dogs, I silently judged. Every mile didn't feel like healing, exactly, but it did feel like sweating out the ghosts. I also deleted Instagram. Not just uninstalled. Full-on account deactivation. Dramatic? Maybe. But the idea of seeing her posts, seeing his posts, seeing their brunch mimosas filtered in Valencia, it made me want to throw my phone into the Charles River. Off it went. Without social media, I had all this time I didn't know what to do with. So I did the most radical thing possible. I sat with myself. I made coffee every morning and drank it on my tiny balcony. Just me, a chipped mug, and the occasional pigeon fight. Sometimes I thought about Catherine, but more often I didn't. I thought about me. What did I like? What did I actually want? What kind of person had I been trying to be just to keep someone else impressed? Turns out I'd spent a lot of energy trying to be the guy she wanted, thoughtful, mysterious, artsy in that I have an opinion about wine kind of way. But I didn't care about wine. I liked root beer floats and action movies where things exploded for no reason. So I started being that guy again. I rewatched old movies, reached out to friends I'd quietly drifted from, took myself out to lunch, and sat at the counter with a book like I was in a rom-com written for introverts. I even signed up for a pottery class. Yeah, pottery. Me. A guy whose greatest sculpting experience was reshaping chewed gum on a napkin back in middle school. But I needed something that made me get my hands dirty, something imperfect. And oh boy, was I imperfect. My first creation looked like a haunted cereal bowl. My instructor said it had personality, which is a nice way of saying your clay has trust issues. But I kept showing up, not to make art, just to remember how it felt to create something again. Grief, as it turns out, doesn't always wear black. Sometimes it wears sweatpants, smells like takeout, and slowly melts away while you're elbow deep in clay. Each day got a little easier, a little lighter, not because I got over it, but because I let go of the idea that I needed to win the breakup. There was no scoreboard, no audience, no prize for being the most unbothered. Just me detoxing the heart, one go-sweaty jog and lumpy pottery bowl at a time. Let me be clear, Jake wasn't a bad guy. He was just a guy who made a very bad decision, and possibly a guy who moisturizes with motor oil, but that's beside the point. We'd been friends since college, roommates sophomore year, co-founders of a tragically short-lived grilled cheese delivery business junior year, and the only two people dumb enough to jump into the Charles River at 2 a.m. on a dare senior year. He knew my passwords, my pet peeves, and the exact way I like my pancakes. Fluffy, not judgmental. Which made the whole betrayal thing weird. Like, you expect drama from enemies. Not from the guy who once held your hair back after you tried to outdrink a rugby player. I thought about confronting him 100 times. I rehearsed speeches in the shower. Some were angry, some were heartbreakingly calm, and one included a PowerPoint presentation titled Top 10 Ways You Ruin My Trust. But I never sent it. Not because he didn't deserve honesty, but because I realized I wasn't doing it for closure. I was doing it for reaction. I wanted him to feel something. Regret. Shame. At the very least, mild inconvenience. And I knew that if I reached out while still salty, I'd say something I couldn't take back. Something like, you smell like betrayal and Axe body spray. So I didn't. Instead, I did something worse. I remembered the good stuff. The time he drove 2 hours to help me move into that shoebox apartment. The time he pretended to be my lawyer when I panicked about a parking ticket. The time he sat with me through a breakup before, years ago, feeding me M&Ms and bad advice. It hurt to remember that, Jake, because it meant I had to accept that people aren't either good or bad. They're just capable of loyalty, of failure, of loving you and still letting you down. That realization was sad, but it also freed me. Because instead of holding on to the fantasy that Jake would come crawling back with a teary apology and a 3-tier cake labeled, "I'm so sorry," I started letting go. I stopped replaying the TikTok. I stopped stalking his Spotify to see if he added our songs to his playlist. I stopped imagining what I'd say if we ran into each other at CVS. And when I passed his contact on my phone, I didn't delete it. I renamed it. Just one word. Lesson. Because that's what Jake became. Not my enemy. Not my closure. Just a very loud, very clear reminder that the people you trust most can still disappoint you. And it's not your job to fix them. It's your job to forgive yourself for trusting them in the first place. Even if their playlist still slaps. Here's the thing about revenge. It sounds a lot more satisfying in theory. In my head, I had at least 4 different revenge fantasies lined up. One involved mailing Jake a glitter bomb with a passive-aggressive note. Another included me becoming wildly successful, then casually thanking everyone who betrayed me in a podcast interview while sipping something expensive. The most extreme version, me dating a supermodel who also happens to be a licensed therapist and having her analyze them live on a talk show. But in reality, I just didn't have the energy. Don't get me wrong, the anger was there. The bitterness, the what the actual heck moments. But every time I tried to channel it into something dramatic, I got bored. One night, I sat down to write an email to both of them. It started with Dear Benedict and Benedictette, which, let's be honest, was a solid opener. But halfway through, I realized I was spending my evening thinking about them again. So I deleted it. Instead, I started doing something radical, choosing peace. And choosing peace, it turns out, is way more punk rock than revenge. I started spending time with people who made me forget to check my phone. I tried a hot yoga class and almost died. I learned how to make a proper omelet. I listened to entire albums, front to back, while doing nothing else. And not once did I think, man, I wish I was plotting. Because when you finally stop rehearsing what you'd say in an argument that's never going to happen, your brain has room to just chill. I unfollowed, unsubscribed, and this one was surprisingly cathartic. Returned the throw blanket she gave me to the donation bin down the street. Not because I wanted to erase the memory, but because I didn't need it lounging on my couch like a judgmental ghost anymore. Every now and then, people would ask, "Whatever happened with you and Catherine?" And I'd just say, "We grew apart," which was true. One of us grew into accountability. The other grew into Jake. I never got an apology. No confessional text. No closure paragraph. Just digital dust. And weirdly, I was okay with that. Because revenge keeps you tied to someone. But peace? Peace sets you free. With your favorite hoodie back in rotation and 0 glitter in your mailbox. After weeks of emotional detox, long jogs, and too many deep chats with my cat, I realized something big. I didn't know what my life looked like without Catherine in it, and that was kind of exciting. Scary? Yes. Confusing? Absolutely. But also weirdly freeing. Like stepping into an apartment you forgot you were renting and realizing I can repaint the walls and put up my own weird posters now. So I started rebuilding. Not in a new year, new me way. More like old me, slightly upgraded, with fewer delusions and more throw pillows. Step 1, wardrobe. I donated every item of clothing that made me feel like I was auditioning for a role in her version of my life. Goodbye, scratchy blazers. Goodbye, leather shoes I never broke in. Hello, hoodies that actually fit and jeans that didn't try to parent my thighs. Step 2, room reset. I rearranged my apartment furniture like I was a Sims character having an identity crisis. My bed now faced the window. My desk was no longer wedged between a dying plant and guilt. I even bought a tiny lamp shaped like a mushroom. It served no purpose. I loved it. Step 3, hobbies. I downloaded Duolingo and convinced myself I was going to become fluent in Italian. Made it 3 days. Then I took up chess, which ended quickly when I lost to a 12-year-old online who called me boomer energy. But I didn't care. Trying things felt good. Eventually, I found rhythm. I started cooking real meals, not just adult Lunchables. I read books I didn't pretend to understand. I went to indie movie nights alone and didn't feel weird about it. I laughed harder, slept deeper, and, wildest of all, started talking to people without constantly checking my phone. I wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. Not her, not Jake, not even the version of myself I thought I had to be. I was just being, and honestly, that felt like the first real win since the whole thing fell apart. Rebuilding wasn't glamorous. There were no montage scenes, no viral posts about my glow-up, but there were small victories, real ones, like looking in a mirror and finally seeing someone I actually liked, even if he still sucked at chess. You don't realize how loud a lie was until it's gone. It's like living next to a buzzing fridge for months. You forget it's there, until one day it stops and suddenly the silence is deafening. That's what life felt like without the background noise of wondering if something was off, if I was being too sensitive, if the gut feeling was just anxiety in a trench coat. It wasn't. And without it, life got clearer. It's not that I stopped thinking about her, but the thoughts started to change shape. They weren't sharp anymore. They didn't sting. They just passed through, soft like background music in a coffee shop you used to love, but don't visit anymore. I started remembering things differently. Not with longing, but with curiosity. Like, why did I always apologize for things I didn't do? Why did I laugh at jokes I didn't find funny? Why did I think loving someone meant disappearing just a little bit every day? Turns out, I wasn't just mourning a relationship. I was mourning who I'd let myself become inside it. The version of me that said, no worries, when there were worries. The one who played it cool instead of honest. The one who mistook comfort for connection. Life without the lie wasn't dramatic. It was gentle, gradual. I drank coffee the way I actually liked it. Black, not oat milk vanilla with a hint of cinnamon and a spritz of performative wellness. I started wearing cologne that didn't smell like something off a Pinterest board. I said no to plans when I was tired. I said yes to things that felt a little scary. I became a better friend, a more present son, a better listener, especially to myself. And on one quiet Saturday afternoon, while walking home with a bag of groceries and absolutely no mental playlist of arguments, I caught my reflection in a shop window. Noticed I was smiling. No reason, just smiling. That's when I realized I wasn't healing from her. I was healing from pretending to be okay for so long. And finally, I actually was. It ended the way it began, with an algorithm. Nearly 6 months after the breakup that wasn't official but was definitely real, I re-downloaded TikTok. Not because I missed the content. I missed the chaos. And let's be honest, there's only so much peace a man can handle before he starts craving videos of raccoons stealing sandwiches. The app welcomed me back like an old friend with memory loss. No trace of heartbreak. No trace of betrayal. Just 14-year-olds dancing and a guy reviewing hotel pillows. Pure, chaotic neutrality. Then about 3 swipes in, I saw a video. No, not that video. A new one. It was some random guy giving an inspirational speech in a bathrobe. The caption said, healing isn't linear, but growth is exponential. Was it cliché? Absolutely. Did it hit anyway? You bet your self-help podcast it did. Because that's when it hit me. I wasn't mad anymore. Not at Catherine. Not at Jake. Not even at myself. The version of me who would have turned that quote into a bitter meme, he was gone, replaced by a guy who could hear cheesy wisdom and go, yeah, actually, that tracks. So I made a TikTok. My first one. It was just me holding a cup of coffee, looking into the camera. Caption, POV, you get cheated on, emotionally implode, spiritually reboot, and finally learn how to fold a fitted sheet. The comments were pure gold. Sir, is this healing or a midlife crisis? Fitted sheet mastery equals true enlightenment. This is the energy I needed today. Thanks, Internet Dad. And just like that, I was laughing. Not in spite of the past, but with it. Like old friends that don't talk much anymore, but nod politely across the room. I didn't post for clout. I didn't post for her. I posted because it felt like the final puzzle piece of this long, weird, unexpectedly funny journey. I closed the app, looked out the window, and whispered to no one in particular. Thanks, algorithm. Then I brewed a cup of coffee, black, no oat milk, no lies, and sat down at my tiny kitchen table. No posts, no scripts, Just me. And finally, the real beginning.